Hello, fellow flamenco enthusiasts, and welcome to episode 26 of Everything Flamenco. I'm your host, La Hugo, and today let's talk about a very fundamental part of flamenco, palmas. So today we're going to talk a bit about palmas flamencas, or flamenco clapping, so to speak, which is something that is really oftentimes very much underestimated, and I think probably for audiences who are not immersed in the flamenco world, it doesn't seem like a very important part, but actually palmas are one of the most, if not the most important part of flamenco. And it is really something that is supportive to musicians and dancers, and even sometimes if the audience participates but they're not in compass, so they're not in rhythm, they can influence the way that the performance goes for the musicians as well as the dancers. So palmas is the traditional percussion that has been used in flamenco for centuries. The gitanos, when they started making flamenco music, for example, they didn't always have instruments. So either instruments haven't been introduced into flamenco at the time, or because individuals are very poor, they wouldn't have money to own a guitar or any other type of instrument. So they made in music with their hands, oftentimes also playing compass on other objects like tables, where they would do clicking, like ticking with the finger, or almost like wrapping the knuckles. I can't do that now properly. So making music with their hands. And so there are two very fundamental sounds that you make with your hands when it comes to palmas. So the first one is what we call sordas, and it sounds like this. So sordas is where you basically cup your hands to make a dull sound. And there's different names for it. So some call it cerradas, or cerradas, sorry. So it is closed, so it's a closed hand, so it's your cupped hand, or sordas, like I named it now, which means deaf, so it's a dulled sound, or graves, which means serious. And then the other palma that you get is what we call lisas, or what I know as lisas. Lisa means smooth or flat. So it sounds like this. So you can hear there's quite a fundamental difference between the two. And we call it lisas, but it can also be called claras, which means clear, or abiertas, which means open, because you use the fingers of your one hand to slap the palm of your other hand. And it's two open hands. And it can also be called agudas, which means sharp. So with lisas also, it's important to find that sweet spot. So you can hear with my palmas, for example, it's very loud and clear, but I didn't make a lot of effort to make the sound, because oftentimes when you do palmas, obviously you're going to do it for a long time, so your arms can get tired. So you really want to make the clearest sound with the least effort as possible. So if you find, you can practice on your hands to see where you find the sweet spot on your hand, and it will almost sound like two little wooden blocks that are clap together. So, for palmas, it's such a fundamental thing, like I said, and I'm not going to get into all the palos, like the different type of flamenco sounds and clapping. We're going to split it up into the different palos and discuss in future episodes. I really just want to focus on palmas at the moment. So, there's so many fundamentals. So, for example, it's very, very important for a palmera, the person that does the clapping or the individuals that do clappings in the cuadro or the group or troupe, to stay in compass. So you really need to be able to follow the musicians as well as the dancers to keep the rhythm not as even as possible. You just have to keep it even, because if you unnecessarily speed up or slow down your palmas, you can really pull down the rest of the group, and it can also confuse the dancer and throw them off. So you really need to be able to follow very well. And it's also about making music with your hands. So even though we differentiate between sordas and lisas, it's also, your lisas can also be louder and softer, and your sordas can be louder and softer depending on what is happening on the stage. So, for example, if a dancer is doing a beautiful piece of, marking and movement, so where they're just doing beautiful arm movements and they're not really doing heavy footwork, you don't want to go and do loud lisas, like clapping two wooden blocks together. You really want to complement the dancer, so you'll more likely do sordas in those instances, and then also make a bit of musicality. So because you get your straight palmas where you'll just clap the rhythm, for example, like this. Or you can also, make music with it. So, depending on what the palo is, of course, and also, what is happening on the stage. So I think to be a great palmera, there are people that actually just do palmas for people. They don't dance, they don't sing, they don't necessarily even play instruments. Sometimes they might play cajon, but they don't play guitar or anything like that. They just do palmas for people, and they are really professionals at it. And they are fantastic, and they can follow any dancer. Doesn't matter how good they know the dance, or they might even not even know the dance, but because they know the essence of the palos, the rhythm that's being danced, as well as the structure of the dancing, they can follow easily, and they will know when to do what, when it comes to the clapping. So if I'm just thinking, my brain is going 1,000 miles a minute. So when it comes to lisas as well, when you clap for footwork, you don't want to overpower the dancer, for example. So if they are doing footwork, the audience needs to be able to hear what the dancer is dancing, but your palmas also need to be loud enough for the dancer to be able to hear you and follow, along with you, what you are doing. And even in footwork, sometimes you will do different types of rhythms. So you can do your tiempo, which is your straight timing, depending on, the palo that is being danced. And then there's also contratempo, which is your in-between time. So, one person will maybe do straight clapping and the other one will do in-between, or you will also have maybe one person that does straight clapping and another person that will make a bit more musicality with their hands, or it can even happen in a group. So you will oftentimes, when you listen to flamenco music as well, you can definitely hear when it's straight clapping that's happening or when there's contratempo in between as well. So I've put a playlist together on Spotify. I actually put it together for jaleos, which is your encouragement, which is something that we will discuss in a future episode. But it actually, the same playlist works very well to listen and practice palmas. So I'm going to put the link in the description of this episode for you, and you can go and listen to the songs that I put there and practice palmas along with the songs. So one of them that's actually very, very good, one song that's in there where there's footwork as well. So you can hear the dancer dancing, and then you can also hear the palmeras clapping. That is called Alegrías en Directo. So you can just look it up in the playlist and really listen to that. And you can also hear there when the dancer is doing markings, so when they're doing the sordas or your softened claps, and when they're doing lisas, your louder claps, and also when they're doing tiempo and contratiempo. So it's very nice. So just go and listen to that and hear if you can differentiate between them and what is actually happening in the song. And the same happens even if you don't have a dancer and you might have a singer. You also don't want to overpower the singer with your palmas. So you really want to complement them. And what is also sometimes, difficult, especially when you get excited, is when you do the downbeats with your feet together with the palmas, especially on the 7/8. Sometimes it is quite tempting to speed up. So just be very conscious of it, to stay in time and to think of you are being complementary to the musicians and the dancers. You are not leading. So, the other thing that I wanted to say is that, when it can also happen in a dance that it's being sped up. So the dancers may be getting towards the end of the choreography and they want to speed it up to end on a high note. It's really important to be able to follow the dancer, to really pick up when that is happening and to be able to follow them. And then also once they set that new speed, to keep it at that and then not speed it up again, so unless the dancer indicates that you should do that. So that you don't make the dancer uncomfortable, maybe let them, push them so hard that they must go so fast that they can't do their footwork properly. So yeah, that's a very important thing. So you need to be able to follow. And of course, the palmeras also will do jaleos, which is the words of encouragement, which we will discuss in another episode, as I've said. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to get into more detail, but go and listen to the playlist that I've put together and practice, and I hope you enjoy. So I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. I am very passionate about palmas. When I joined our dance company, I did palmas only for about 1.5 to 2 years. And, when I joined, I got very frustrated because I wasn't allowed to dance, do dances yet in the company itself. I mean, as a student, when we did student shows, that was fine. But when I was in the company, I was only allowed to do palmas. And that frustrated me quite a bit at the beginning. But to be honest, it really set the fundamentals. That internal clock is so, so very important. And being a palmera is so, so, so important. And so really something that everyone needs to practice, and not something that we always have time for to learn or to teach in class. Sometimes it just gets added as a afterthought before shows and things like that. So if you can practice that on your own, and become a real good palmera and have a very good internal metronome, you will really be a valuable asset to the flamenco community. So go and practice those palmas and let me know what you think about the playlist. So I will chat to you in the next episode. Ole!